Hello, this is Chloe Haggquist, and I am presenting on the Crimean War. So the Crimean War was fought between 1853 and 1856. It is widely considered the first modern war because of the novel technologies it employed. The conflict transpired between the Russian Empire and the Ottoman Empire, or an Ottoman alliance, which was made up of the Ottoman Empire, Britain, France, and Sardinia. This conflict was triggered by disputes over religious rights to the Holy Land, or Jerusalem, Palestine, which is now part of modern Israel, Palestine. At the time, this Holy Land was in Ottoman territory. So the Ottoman Empire was officially Islamic and governed by an Islamic caliphate. So, of course, Catholic Russia sought to expand its influence over Ottoman territories and protect Orthodox Christians under Ottoman rule. Britain and France became involved for their own reasons, and the conflict quickly spiraled into a 3-year bloodbath. The war's primary battles took place on the Crimean Peninsula, hence the conflict's title, the Crimean War, with the siege of Sevastopol being its defining conflict. For context, Crimea sits in modern Ukraine, though it was annexed by Russia in 2019. And both sides employed both traditional military tactics as well as new military technologies like railways, the telegraph, and more, giving the conflict its title of the first modern war. The war was also famously mismanaged. The British charge of the Light Brigade has persisted as a symbol of this mismanagement. The conflict concluded with the Treaty of Paris, which was signed in 1856. The Ottoman alliance prevailed, securing Ottoman sovereignty and restricting Russia's influence in the Black Sea and other regions. Finally, the war had a far-reaching impact, setting a new precedent regarding military tactics and technologies, and famously influencing America's Civil War and more. Next, to address the conflict's inception. So the official cause of the war was a dispute between the Russian Tsar Nicholas I and the Ottoman Emperor Abdul-Majid I regarding authority over Orthodox Christians living in Ottoman territory. However, this Russian-Ottoman religious dispute was only a pretext for European powers to scuffle with each other. At the time of the war's inception, Ottoman allies, Britain, France, Sardinia, and a few more, were concerned with Russia's rapid imperial expansion. The Western allies viewed the stirring Russian-Ottoman conflict as an opportunity to check Russian power and prove their own military power. During this time, the Ottoman Empire was losing territory to revolution, and its sovereignty was backsliding. So the Ottomans allied with these Western forces, hoping to reinvigorate their empire and secure their borders. Though the Russian-Ottoman dispute over religious freedom sparked the Crimean War, the conflict was chiefly driven by the imperial rivalries and territorial interests of a number of European nations. Next, historical context and technology. The Crimean War occurred during a period of rapid industrial and technological advancement in the mid-19th century, driven by the Industrial Revolution. This era saw significant developments in transportation, communication, and weaponry that shaped the nature of warfare during the period. Railways allowed faster movement of troops and supplies, while the telegraph enabled quicker communication between front lines and government officials. Improvements in weaponry, like rifled guns and steam-powered naval vessels, increased both the range and lethality of combat. The industrial nature of the Crimean War made the conflict the first of its kind. Its implementation of then novel technologies revealed the devastating outcomes of industrial warfare. Every warring power lacked adequate medical and logistical support in the face of new industrial warfare techniques, which created even more death. Tragic. The majority of fallen soldiers on all sides succumbed to disease and poor conditions, spotlighting the urgent need for general military reforms and more. Next, technology and tactics used throughout the war. Because the Crimean War was the first to incorporate explosive naval shells, railways, telegraphs, and other new technologies, warfare tactics had to adjust in response, obviously. Trench warfare famously emerged during the siege of Sevastopol, in an 11-month conflict spearheaded by British forces. Here, trench tactics were implemented as a key defensive strategy to protect soldiers from artillery fire. This tactic consisted of soldiers digging extensive networks of trenches, which afforded protection and helped maintain strong defensive positions. The use of coordinated artillery barges became more strategic as well. Modern rifled cannons and mortars allowed for precise, long-range attacks. These technologies were used by all warring parties, allowing troops to weaken enemy defenses before infantry advances. Timing and speed of attacks became a larger concern as well, as reconnaissance and communication were enhanced by the implementation of the telegraph. Commanders could rely on commanders could relay orders more rapidly than in previous wars, so time was always of the essence. These new tactics, though implemented imperfectly, would later influence the trench and siege warfare seen in World War I and beyond. Next, an overview of the war's significant battles. First, the Battle of Alma took place during September of 1854. This was the first major battle of the Crimean War, where Allied forces defeated a Russian army near the Crimean Alma River. Next, the Battle of Balaclava occurred in October of 1854 and resulted in an Ottoman ally victory. Next, the Battle of Inkerman occurred the next month. It was brutal and close fought, and it was fought in foggy conditions, and it also resulted in an Allied victory. Lastly, the famous siege of Sevastopol concluded in September of 1855. This prolonged and decisive siege is considered the culmination of the Crimean War by most. Here, Allied forces captured the main Russian naval base in Crimea, securing a strong victory. Next, the war's conclusion. The Crimean War concluded with the signing of the Treaty of Paris in March of 1856, bringing an end to hostilities between Russia and the Allied forces of the Ottoman Empire, Britain, France, and Sardinia. The treaty effectively curbed Russian expansion and Britain and France's objectives of balancing European power came to fruition as well, if only for a brief period. And as a part of the treaty, Russia ceded certain territories near the Danube River and relinquished its claim as the protector of Orthodox Christians within the Ottoman Empire, a key Russian motivator throughout the war. Further, the agreement neutralized the Black Sea, prohibiting Russia from establishing a naval presence there and effectively limiting Russia's military influence in the region. Though the treaty created temporary stability, its stability did not last or wasn't perfect. However, some of the war's leading tensions were left unresolved as well. The Paris Treaty Agreement failed to quash Russia's expansionist ambitions, and multiple Russia-Ottoman conflicts ensued. Residual tensions from the Crimea conflict played a role in the provocation of the Russo-Turkish War of 1877 and later World War I as well. In conclusion, the Crimean War was surely an important event in the scope of European history. The conflict lasted only 3 years and produced less than 500,000 casualties, but despite the war's brevity and comparatively fewer casualties, its impact echoed far into the future. New technologies and military techniques used during the war went on to inspire the tactics used in the American Civil War just a decade later, as well as the trench warfare of World War I. The war is also tied to territories still in turmoil today, such as Crimea, Ukraine, and the Holy Lands in Israel, Palestine. Quite interesting, I'd say. And finally, the Crimean War, of course, was impactful indeed. Thanks so much for listening. And here is my works cited.